Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be reacting to my League 2 predictions from the start of this season. Slightly different style of video, as we're going to be looking at my predictions for the start of the season. I've taken like a very brief glance as I found the predictions, but this is pretty much a blind reaction to my predictions for the start of the season. I can vaguely remember where I put some teams and where like the rough area I've got certain teams, but yeah, we're going to see how my predictions are. I've got a feeling they're not going to be great. League 2 has been pretty unpredictable this season, and yeah, hopefully it will highlight that how unpredictable the league is, rather than how bad my League 2 knowledge is. With the jokes aside, let's get into it. We're going to go from 24 to first. I will be looking and comparing to where they are in the league as we go, and then at the end we'll have a look at how we did overall, and maybe if you guys enjoy the video, we'll do an updated predictions. If you guys enjoy that, we're doing updated predictions, which will be slightly easier because first we're pretty much nailed on, but the rest of the league, I guess, isn't. But we do start in 24th, and in 24th place, I had Accrington Stanley. Now, I don't think this is an awful prediction, considering that they are currently 19th in the table. Now, that does seem like a big kind of like 5 places difference, which isn't great. They've won the last 2 games. Before that, they were right down there. So yeah, could have made this video a couple of games ago, would have helped. But all jokes aside, I don't think it's an awful prediction because I think they can still finish there. They are only 7 points off of the bottom, and they're only 5 points above the drop. So, and they haven't been great this season whatsoever. I know they had an FA Cup round, and they've done well from that FA Cup game, but financially, but in terms of on the pitch, they haven't been amazing. And I think I was justified to put them 24th. And I think that actually it's not a bad start to the video. And we back that up with the next team, which is 18th place currently and 23rd place. I had Newport County. So yeah, these two teams are right next to each other, 1 point ahead of Accrington and Newport. They've lost the last 3 games. They've got Port Vale next, so that'll be a tough game for them if that game goes ahead. But either way, they are currently 18th in the table, so 5 places again. So they are doing slightly better than I predicted. I do think it's not a bad prediction. I don't think they'll go down. I think Accrington could. I think Newport might be just about all right. But you know, they had a decent start and are now coming back down to sort of back towards where they should be in the table. So I actually don't think that's an awful prediction by any stretch of the imagination. And we go a little bit closer. 22nd place, I had Morecambe, who are currently 23rd. So just 1 place difference. That's making it sound a little bit better. Again, we've got them in and around the right area. That 1 place different, you can't complain. I kind of wanted to put Morecambe in the bottom 2 based on squad quality and off-the-field issues, and the fact they had to sign all their players in one big go. That kind of says everything you need to know. You know, that is not stable. But the key factor for me, and it is the factor that's been helping them this season, is the man in the dugout. That is Derek Adams. So, yeah, I think, Derek Adams has done a decent job. They need to concede fewer goals. They have conceded 39. Some of the teams, I mean, Newport and Accrington, we spoke about, have actually conceded more. So have Swindon. But they need to concede fewer goals because they haven't got loads of firepower. But in the last 3, 2 wins, they're looking decent. Can they escape? I think they can. I think we're tough. I think really tough. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with that prediction. I'm going to be honest. 21st place is Harrogate, and 21st place currently is Harrogate. We've got our first absolute spot-on prediction. Really happy with that. Not much to say other than I've got them absolutely spot on. They won the last game as well, which actually helped me out. So thank you to Harrogate. Thank you to Simon Weaver. I think actually, of all the teams down there, to be honest with you, come the end of the season, this one actually might be one that ages the worst. They've already spent a little bit of money in January. I think they might spend a little bit more as well, which they didn't do in the summer. That was the big reason why I had them down there, because they didn't spend at all in the summer. They barely added to the squad. They brought in Bryn Morris. They pushed Leeds quite close in the FA Cup as well. So there'll be a bit more positivity around them there. They won the last game, and I think if they add a couple new faces, they'll be all right. But yeah, 21st, pretty chuffed with that one. Move on to 20th. This is where things start to go a little bit awry. In 20th place, we've got Barrow. They're up in 15th, so we're 5 places out once again. I do think they'll drop down the table a little bit more. I think there's a few teams below them in this division who will finish above them. So I think they'll probably finish a bit lower. As I said, I'll do an updated predictions if people want to see that. And I think they'll be a little bit lower than they are now, but I don't think they'll be down as far as 20th. But I don't think it's an awful prediction once again. I didn't think they'd do brilliantly this season. Was unsure how Stephen Clements would translate to kind of adapting the style. Very similar job to what he had to do at Gillingham, would come into a team that didn't have the best style of play and try and make them play an expansive style. It's very difficult to do, especially at this level. I'm not sure quite how well it's worked, if I'm honest. They're not in the best form. Fans seem to have a bit of discontent. They're certainly in a weaker position than they were under Pete Wild, sort of 12 months ago. So, yeah, I think that this was always on the cards, them doing poorly. They actually had a really decent start to the season. It's kind of skewed their league position a little bit. Them and Newport are the two. I think you can probably move them down. If I'd waited a few weeks to record this video, I think they'd be lower in the table. Let's put it that way. So maybe those predictions would look a little bit better. We move on to 19th place, and this is actually the biggest difference we've had, and it's Cheltenham. They're up in 13th. 6 places different. Been pleasantly surprised by Cheltenham this season. I'm happy to say that I've got it wrong because I like Michael Flynn. I like the style of play he tries to employ. I like the things that he does as a coach. And I think Cheltenham have been an entertaining watch. They were very entertaining at the start of the season. They've definitely shored things up a little bit and are a little bit less gung-ho. But all in all, they were really an anomaly for me. They were a tough one to call because they've actually added, and they did add, some very nice young potential players from non-league. But they had that the negative momentum we've spoken about a lot on this channel. When you come down from League One, obviously a relegation, you can really carry that into a new season. So I think 13th, if they finish there, they'll be more than happy with that. A season of consolidation will be really strong for Cheltenham. They look decent against my team as well, Notts, when we played them recently. I don't think they're going to push for promotion, but I don't think they're going to finish anywhere near as low as 19th. And I think in and around where they are at the moment will probably be fair. So, yeah, hold my hands up there. Not the greatest shout in the world. And another team that's 6 places different is Bromley, up in 12th. And, I mean, again, very, very similar. 6 places difference. Bromley, I had them higher initially in my predictions, but then I thought, well, how well will they really adapt to League Two? They had the style and the physicality to adapt to League Two, but I did think it is, I'm not going to have them as low as some people. Some people thought they've dropped straight back down. They were a tough team to place. I kind of ended up bumping them down a little bit lower than I would have liked. Probably would have had them in, I think I had them in around 16th initially. But they've exceeded even those expectations. They're actually a top half side at the moment. I'm not sure they'll sustain that, but then again, they've signed Nicky Kabamba in January and look like they're spending some decent money. So maybe they will sustain it. So yeah, Bromley have exceeded expectations. Once again, Andy Woodman deserves huge credit for that. I'm happy to be wrong, especially about a team that I've seen get promoted from the National League. Always love teams coming up doing well, and I'm a huge advocate for the National League, and this is a great advert for how strong that division is. The fact that Bromley are in the top half, able to compete, and yeah, they're not going to be down as low as that. They're going to be in League Two next season. I'm pretty sure of that one. We then get into the first absolute stinker of a prediction, which was Salford in 17th. This is awful. I have made a video on Salford very recently, so Salford fans, please don't hate me. Go and watch that video instead where I'm waxing lyrical about your team. They're currently in 3rd, so 14 places different. It's not great, is it? It's really not great. I mean, they've been on a 6-game winning streak. So 6 games ago, they might have been a little bit closer to that prediction. They were such a difficult team to predict this season. And I think after 18 games, that was summed up by the fact they had 6 wins, 6 draws, 6 losses. They were so hard to characterise and categorise and sort of work out. That was at the start of the season. They made some really big signings. Ben Woodburn, Tyrese Forner. How would they get on? They only conceded 19 goals this season. It's the joint best defence in the league. And did we see that coming? Definitely not. Initially had them even lower, I think. So I'm glad that bumped them up a little bit last minute. I think Ben Woodburn's signing made me think, maybe they're going to spend. Because don't forget, these predictions are made before the window closes. So it's always difficult to really, truly predict how a team are going to get on. But yeah, Salford is the first absolute horror shout. The next team is 8 places out. But I'm actually going to give myself a pat on the back and take a lot of credit for this prediction. It's Carlisle, down in 16th. Now, Carlisle fans gave me a lot of stick for making this prediction, like a lot. And I understand why. They came down from League One. The last time they were in League Two, they got promoted. But I just looked at it from a perspective, and I've spoken about it so many times, I'm not going to go into it too much detail, but I looked at it from the parallels between them and Forest Green. They only got a couple more points than Forest Green got the previous season in League One, and Forest Green were relegated back to back. And Carlisle could easily do that. They're currently rock bottom. I do think Carlisle will get out of it, and if I do an updated predictions, you'll see where I think they will finish. I do think they'll get out of it, but it will be tight. A lot tighter than... I think they'd snap your hand off for 16th right now. Put it that way. They expected to go straight back up at the start of the season, and I didn't see that happening whatsoever. And I'm going to be honest, I probably would have had them lower, but I was fearing the backlash as it was. 16th was pretty bad backlash. Imagine if I had them any lower. So, yeah, I'm actually really pleased with that prediction. Yes, it is 8 places off, but I don't think there'll be too many people that did predictions that put Carlisle any lower than I did. If you did, please let me know. I'll be very impressed, because I genuinely don't think many saw them struggling as much as they have, and have them all the way down in 16th, down in 24th. Next up, we've got Grimsby, 15th. They're up in 9th, so it doesn't look great. I refer you to the amount of games they've lost this season, which is 12. That is more than any team from 20th upwards. So I don't think this prediction is actually that bad. I think as well, they're in -4 goal difference. Again, that goal difference would put them in and around, I think it would put them 16th in the table. So actually one out if it's on goal difference. I know it's not how football works, but what the point I'm making is I think they're overachieving. If you look at the XG table as well, which I know you can't see, but in the XG table, Grimsby are currently 18th in the XG table. I'd like to point out Salford are 15th in the XG table. So those two teams, if it was based on XG, I know, again, it's not how football works, but it does give an indication that maybe the prediction isn't quite as bad as it looks in terms of the actual differential. I think they're going to slide down the table. The form's not been brilliant recently. They're not going to be in any trouble of going down or anything like that. But as I say, the amount of games they've won is not sustainable. 1 draw in 25 games is incredible. But fair play to Grimsby, proving me wrong. Fleetwood I had in 14th. And at the moment, Fleetwood are 16th. So very happy with that prediction. Again, very difficult to assess the relegated teams. It always is difficult to assess them. And I wasn't sure on Fleetwood. I had them a little bit higher, actually, I'm going to be honest. So, make some prediction look slightly worse. I actually had them in the top half in my initial predictions. But as I was going through and writing the prediction piece and things like that, I just couldn't. There were just teams I thought were better than them. And in fairness, they may go higher. They have got games in hand on everyone, and they've got a new manager. Although it hasn't quite, had the new manager bounce Pete Wild so far. But it was a difficult one because I think they've got a decent squad. They've drawn a lot of games as well. Haven't won all that many, but haven't lost that many. So, and they're on a flat goal difference. So they could be doing better than they are. But I'm quite happy with where I had them. In and around mid-table, I think that's where they'll finish this season. One I am a little bit disappointed with is Swindon. I've got them in 13th. They're down in 20th. Now, on terms of squad quality, I thought they had a pretty good squad individually. The players, I think they've got some talent in that team. I do. I think Will Wright at centre back. He got promoted last season. Harry Smith on his day, he's unplayable. The size of him, he can score goals. Kawongo Shamanga has scored loads of goals before. I think the prediction was made before George Cox even signed, but he's been a top flight player in the Netherlands for years. They've got some quality in the team. Ian Holloway's come in, and they have started rising up the table. I held off and put them any higher than 13th. And that was a bold prediction because a lot of people had them struggling because of the off-the-field issues. And that is what held me back from putting them any higher and has probably saved me from making an awful prediction when it comes to Swindon because I was drawn in by their recruitment. But off the pitch has not been great. And I do think that Ian Holloway has got them trending in the right direction. Will they finish in the top, as high as 13th? No, I don't think so. But will they finish as low as 20th? No, I don't think so. So other than the fact they've played a lot more games than other teams, the teams around them have played 23, 24, they've played 26. Other than that, they are moving in the right direction. So 13th is not a great prediction by any stretch, but I don't think it's as bad as the next one is, which is Wimbledon down in 12th. Pretty disappointed myself here because I based a lot of the predicted sides on how solid they are, how robust they are. Wimbledon are up in 5th. Johnny Jackson's doing a really good job there. Really impressed. They hadn't moved to the new system when I made the prediction. They'd done it a little bit in pre-season, so there was a little bit of uncertainty. Are they going to stick with the 4-4-2? Are they going to move to the 3-5-2 that they used in pre-season? But again, joint best defence in the league, and that is massive, and that's the reason why they're in the top 5. It is, you have to have a good structure and a good defence in this league to get out of it, and they are one of the best coached and well-drilled sides in this division. So having them 12th was an oversight. I think Wimbledon fans were disappointed with my prediction at the time. I'm disappointed with it looking back on it, and it's not a great one. 7 out. At least I didn't have them too low. I had them in the top half. But yeah, I think they'll definitely finish in those playoff positions. 11th place, another playoff team. And it is Crewe up in second. So it's even worse in terms of differential of games. Yes, they played a game more. But had they not played that game on the weekend, they still would be in the top 3. In fact, I think they'd still be second on goals scored. Again, Crewe underestimated them. They've had a crazy season, really. Started terribly and turned it completely round. I was going off the fact that they had the playoff final hangover, which they did have at the start of the season, but they shook it off very quickly. Didn't expect them to shake it off quite so quickly. I thought they'd have a pretty poor start, and I thought they'd come on strong in the second half of the season. But they came on strong a lot earlier than that. Will they stay in the top 3? It's difficult to say because of the resources. I think other teams can spend in Jan and add, and maybe have got bigger squads where they rely on youth players a little bit more. But they've got a great manager in Lee Bell, tactically astute, can get the best out of this group. So, yeah, I do think that whilst Crewe may not finish as high as second, they certainly aren't going to finish as low as 11th. And yeah, it goes down as another poor prediction. Next prediction, I'm actually, again, it's 9 places out, so it's similar to Carlisle, but I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. I've got Walsall in 10th. Now, that sounds crazy, considering people watch the video like Walsall are first. They're 14 points clear of the automatic promotion spots. They're 12 points clear of second place. What are you talking about? Nobody had Walsall finishing anywhere near the promotion places at the start of the season. In fact, when I posted my prediction, I had Walsall fans say, there's no way we finish that high. We haven't got the strikers to do it. And I had Walsall, again, in my heart of hearts, I probably wanted to put them sneaking in the playoffs or just missing out, because I loved that midfield 3, and I bang on about the midfield 3 all the time, but I just thought that and Connor Barrett joining the recruitment, I just loved it. They just signed players that I'm a big fan of. Connor Barrett, they signed Charlie Lakin, they had Ryan Sturt, they already had Jamie Jealous, they had all these players that I'm just a huge fan of. Tommy Simpkin in goal. I really like the recruitment, been a big fan of it, and it's paid dividends. It has worked. Did I see them finishing first? No, absolutely not. Did I see them, potentially sneaking in the playoffs? Yeah, I think any team that finished, I had between 12th and 7th, I had in and around that group of teams. Like I say, it is 9 places out, so yes, in theory, it's a poor prediction. But actually, again, like I said about Carlisle, if you did do predictions at the start of the season and you had Walsall higher than me, then I'd love to see them, but not many did. And I'm really quite chuffed that I was actually quite high on them from the start. We then get into another prediction which is actually quite poor. Colchester up in 9th place is my prediction. They're actually down in 17th. It's actually, in terms of difference of places, better than the Walsall shout. But Colchester, up until their last couple of games, were actually on a really good run and looked like they could get back in that mix and looked like maybe a 9th place finish might be a good shout. They were on an incredible unbeaten run. They lost the last 2 though, and it seems to have fizzled out momentum. They've drawn 12 games this season. No team has drawn more. You turn a few of those draws into wins, and all of a sudden they could be in the top half, or at least up as high as 13th. If you turn 2 draws into wins, they beat 13th in the league. So a lot closer to where I had them. Like I said, they're lower than I think they should be. They've drawn too many games. They're well coached under the Cowleys, and I think they'll finish higher than they are at the moment. So hopefully come the end of the season, this prediction will have aged a little bit better. But yeah, they've not been the dark horse that a lot of people had. I think if you go to a lot of people's predictions, they'll actually have Colchester in the playoffs, or they'll have them in the playoffs. I had them close. A lot of people had them as their dark horse shout, and the dark horses were Walsall, in truth, the team I had 1 place below them. Next up, we've got Chesterfield in 8th place. They're currently 10th. So actually, quite happy with that. They lost the last 3, Chesterfield, but they've had a massive injury crisis. As they come out the other side of that, I fully anticipate them to be higher than they are. They've got goal difference, which I think is the 6th best in the league. Again, I know it's not all about goal difference, but it does give you an indication of where they would be had they not lost their last 3. They'd be higher in the table. I think they can still finish the playoffs. They've got a great squad, and that's shown with the injury crisis. They've still managed to put out good sides despite having so many players out. They'll add players in Jan, I'm sure. If they keep hold of the players they've got on loan, I think they'll finish higher. Newly promoted teams are always hard to predict, but being only 2 places out on Chesterfield, I'm pretty happy with that. We move on to 7th place. I had Notts, and Notts have pleasantly surprised me. They're actually higher than that. They're in 6th, but 1 place out. Once again, very happy with that prediction. I thought there'd be big improvements under Maynard this season in terms of putting in a structure defensively, and that has been huge. I was unsure how the firepower would play out, and it's not been a big concern. Notts have been the second highest scorers, joint second highest scorers in the division alongside Chesterfield, only behind, of course, Walsall. And defensively, much improved. Not quite as good as some of the other teams in the mix, not quite as good as Crewe, as your Salfords, as your Wimbledons, but or obviously all your Walsalls, but improved. And I think 1 place out for Notts is, I'm pretty happy with that prediction, to be honest with you. We move on to 6th then, and that is Bradford. Only 2 places out. They're down in 8th. I think this, again, is a pretty solid prediction. If I could swap Notts and Bradford round, I would. I think that's kind of probably more in and around. I mean, Bradford have gone on been a bit streaky this season, hot and cold. But to be only 2 places out on a prediction at this end of the table, I'm pretty happy with. I'm keeping it positive because the next prediction is probably by far my worst prediction in the whole thing. So I'm getting kind of stealing myself for that. I think one of my stinkers early on was Salford. And let's move on to 5th place. Okay, there's 2 more to come. This and 1 more. I've just had a quick glance. At 5th place, I've got Tranmere Rovers. Feel free to turn the video off now. That is a huge dent in any credibility because that is not played out at all. Tranmere, if I did updated predictions, there's every chance I'd have them to go down, nowhere near going up. I think that speaks volumes of how poor they've done this season. I think even their fans were optimistic. They've got a good, solid squad, I think. In hindsight, did they have the X factor or quality that a team needs to get in those playoffs? No, but I was basing it on who has got a team that's got good physicality and should be well coached and therefore not concede many goals. And I thought with the amount of runners they had in their team and Nigel Adkins in the dugout that they would be well coached and not concede many. But it's gone the opposite way. They've conceded loads of goals. They've scored the fewest in the division, even less than Carlisle, who are bottom. They're in terrible form and they're heading only one way. And had they not beaten Carlisle recently, it'd look even worse, wouldn't it? So terrible prediction, and yeah, can only apologise for that one. That is awful. 17 places out. Yikes, that is awful. We move into 5th place, and we go back to 4th place, and we go back to solid enough predictions. Doncaster, 3 places out. They're down in 7th. Lost the last game. If they'd won that, they actually would be up in. Well, if they'd have drawn that game, they'd be up in 4th, where I predicted them. So had they got a draw in that game, the prediction would be looking good. They didn't. Shouldn't be tight in those positions though. And they just got through the next round of the FA Cup, so they're riding high at the moment. Again, if you guys want to see updated predictions, please do let me know because I would probably change where I had Doncaster. I'm not going to tell you if I had them higher or lower. At the moment, they're lower, but as I say, they're in some okay form, to be fair, with that win in the FA Cup. And it's extremely tight in there, but pretty happy being 3 places out. We then move on to the final stinker. There's actually probably another one coming, to be fair. In 3rd place, we've got Gillingham. Terrible, terrible shout. I think a lot of people had Gillingham to go up, and Gillingham do it every single season. They draw people in. I think everyone had them to go up last season, and again this season. And I'm sure next season they'll do it again because they spend big in the summer, or at least we don't know the fees, but they bring in players you'd imagine would cost a lot of money, some good level. They have a manager who you think, yeah, look at behind him. Mark Bonner's a promotion-winning manager at this level, really nice guy, which can connect with the fans. But the issues in front of goal, once again, they don't score enough goals. 22 scored this season, less than a goal a game. They've not conceded many. They've only conceded 24. John Coleman's come in to try and turn things around. Can Gillingham finish the top 3? I don't think they're going to be anywhere near that. At least they are in a fairly respectable position in 14th. They've not had a terrible season, but I think that they are going to be mid-table this year. So that prediction goes down as a pretty poor one. We then have our final two. We've got a good one and a pretty poor one. Port Vale, currently in 4th place. I had them second. Pretty happy with that. Everyone, well, not everyone, a lot of people had them as their winners for the league, kind of runaway winners as well, because of the level of play they brought in. They came down from the league above. They already had a good squad. They've got a manager who's won promotion to the Championship, never mind to League One. Hasn't quite clicked for them. They've had a terrible run until their previous game where they got a much needed win. Port Vale could be higher. They could be up in second. As I say, one win in that terrible run would have actually moved up to second place. So it's very tight in there. I'm pretty happy with that. But in first place, I had MK Dons, who are currently in 11th place. Will MK Dons win the league? No. Can they finish the top 3? I still believe they can finish the top 3. They're only 8 points off it, and they've had a pretty poor run of late. Had they not had that run, it's obvious, but like a Sean Dyche-esque quote he said recently, but had they not had that run, I think they would be in and around that mix. They're still in and around it, and they've got a brilliant squad. I think they've got a great manager, Scott Lindsay, who's won promotion from this division before as well. So maybe they won't finish first, maybe they won't finish the top 3, but I do think they can probably get into those playoffs. I don't think it's an awful prediction either. The level of team they had, it was actually Mike Williamson who was the manager at the time. I had Mike Williamson predicted to finish first. He's currently 24th in the league. Maybe that's the terrible prediction of the video. But in terms of MK Dons, it's 10 places out. But I don't actually think, considering how much, the level of play they brought in the summer, I don't think it's a terrible prediction. I think you can put Salford being so low as a pretty poor one. I think you can put Tranmere as the absolute worst prediction. 2, Gilliam's poor, but I think maybe understandable, similar to MK Dons. But yeah, Tranmere, definitely the worst prediction. Harrogate, the only team I've got absolutely spot on. Walsall and Carlisle, probably my 2 best shouts. Whilst not the best predictions, I think the fact that I had Walsall doing pretty well and Carlisle doing pretty badly, considering how those 2 teams have done and where people expect them to finish, I think I've done quite well on those. Overall, I don't think it's terrible, but it's also not great either. Let me know how you think I did in the comments, if you could. Let me know how your predictions were. I'd love to see what your predictions were at the start of the season and compare them to now. If you guys would like to see an updated prediction video, do let me know. I'm more than happy to do that. And please let me know what your updated predictions are as well. If you like the video, please do give us a like. It helps more people see the content on the channel as we're trying to grow and ultimately produce more videos for you guys. If you could subscribe, we're on the way to 1,000 subscribers, which is crazy for you to even be saying that. If we can hit 1,000, that will do so much for the channel. It will open so much up, and like I say, be able for us to produce regular content for you guys. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one.